All right, welcome to JMac Investing. My name is Jason. A little different backdrop here, here in person in Austin with Thomas Healy. So very excited to be here, and I really did want to take a minute to thank you, as I feel like represent the retail investor community and a big Hyliion investor community who has been many who have been vested and invested since day one, and so I don't really feel like it's me coming. I'm coming with the community, and I reached out to the community and got quite a few of these questions that we're going to go over today. So thank you for inviting me.
No, thanks for being here. It's a long time coming. I think we probably first connected approaching a year and a half ago now when we were going public. And I think at that point I had said, hey, why don't we get you down here? You'll actually see a truck. And today was the day. You actually got behind the wheel and got to experience it firsthand. So we're thrilled to have shared it with you and looking forward to talking a little bit more. What's the latest with Hyliion?
Yeah, and I think that is another thing that speaks to, I think, not just you and your character, but also the company, that because you're representing it. But, for a lot of people just throw things out, like me and my wife are this way as well. If we say maybe we'll have you over for dinner, or if we do, we say something, we try to follow.
We're going
to do it.
Yeah.
We're not going to say it. We're not going to say, if we're not going to do it, we say maybe, we might. But if we say we're going to do it, we do it. And so I think that speaks to you and your character. But with that being said, we jump right into some questions.
Absolutely.
And I figured we'd start with some of the ones that came from the community. So
sounds great.
So that way, if they're hard hitting and they're not from me, so we can still be friends afterwards.
We just went through an earnings call, so I think we got all the hard hitting questions.
Right, exactly. And a lot of those kind of were because I polled the community before earnings, so I think some of these got answered, or but we'll find out when we get into them. Okay, so. I guess the first question that came from the community was, now that you know more about fleets and the interest that you've been alluding to, and CNG, RNG as a fuel source, do you think your original projections of 2% adoption, you could supersede that potentially? I know there's Ford, you can't advise,
forward projections and all that.
But now that you're dealing with the fleets on a regular basis now.
So the fleet interest, honestly, it's exceeded our expectations. It's been fantastic. I mean, you saw it today. When you get out of a diesel truck, get into the hyper truck, it's a game-changing experience. And the neat thing is, a lot of the fleets that we've had coming in recently are not just looking at our technology, and nor should they be, right? They're looking at the whole landscape. You got BEV trucks coming forward. You have hydrogen fuel cell trucks coming forward, as well as our Hypertruck solution that uses natural gas to start. And what's been interesting is we've gotten to hear some of the pain points of what these other solutions are facing. BEV plug-in, range anxiety, number one, right? 100 miles of range is what some fleets are getting out of a truck right now. That's a small segment of the market that only needs to drive 100 miles a day.
Hope they don't hit traffic, right?
Right. One fleet told us they literally have a tow truck on standby that will go pick up the trucks if they run out of charge, right?
Wow.
But that's the adoption of a new technology. Is it going to get better? Absolutely. But the one thing that also came out of what we've heard is infrastructure is a big, big problem. We've heard fleets not only face it with trying to build out hydrogen infrastructure, which is doable, but it has some challenges. We've also heard it with electric. And the thing that isn't really being spoken about all that much is how much excess capacity is there really on the grid? Right now, there's not just tons and tons of extra electricity out there to be used, and trucks use a lot of electricity. I think there was a study done recently that showed 50 semi-trucks would consume as much electricity as the Empire State Building consumes. So, how many Empire State Buildings could you just throw on the grid overnight? Not many.
Well, and to add to it, the electric vehicles are becoming adopted, so they're going to be also tapping the grid as well.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's not just semis.
How can the grid handle? I think I read somewhere that if a decent sized neighborhood, if the entire neighborhood adopted EVs and they all plugged in overnight, they take the grid down.
Yep.
Their local grid.
No, these trucks consume a lot of power, and that's where BEV plug-in short haul makes a lot of sense. But the long haul solution, that's where we see natural gas works really well. And then the feedback from fleets has been, hey, if we can just tap into infrastructure that's already out there, and we're not going to have range anxiety with these vehicles, that's a very logical way to adopt electric.
Absolutely. So these questions that came from the community, they were not just one individual. They were like I compiled them when they were sort of like there was multiple overlapping.
Yeah.
So it's kind of some themes that came from the community. So that's what these are. But so the next one is there was several people who were asking about your sales strategy and how do you get fleets from just trialing the vehicle to actually signing on the dotted line. And I think this is coming from people not understanding the trucking industry or how truck sales work, like
Sure.
semi-trucks. I personally don't know at all.
I can walk through it a little bit here.
So, that'd be great.
So very different than, an individual going and buying a passenger car. You walk into a dealership and you say, hey, that's the car I want. I mean, trucking fleets have teams that are dedicated to speccing the trucks and what brand they're going to buy and what options they're going to buy in it. And those are the teams that we're working with, right? We want to convince them that our powertrain solution is right for their application. So first thing on our end is build out our sales team. I'm sure you saw recently we've had some big announcements around just expanding the size of our team. Great individuals, a lot of history in the trucking industry. So they're going out and engaging with fleets. And what we're seeing is fleets want to learn more about what we're doing. And what we see as a great first step is, hey, come down to Austin, come actually experience this truck firsthand, and then let's talk about if it's a right application for what you're doing. And as you saw today, most fleets really enjoy the ride and drive. And then our goal is that some fleets are ready to go right then, and they say, hey, I want to actually commit to a production slot. We've done some announcements recently about that. Others are saying, hey, I can see this as a solution for my fleet. I'm willing to place a reservation, but I really want to go through some more processes of validating within my operations first. And those decisions really just come down to what's a fleet's normal adoption cycle of new technology. Some are willing to jump in and place more orders. Others are going to say, hey, I'm starting with one or two. That's not to mean I'm not going to buy hundreds down the road. It's just I want to start with one or two.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. Especially like the new technologies and adopting them into the fleet. So, okay, yeah, I mean, you kind of alluded on that in the earnings call too. So, very similar. Now, the next question is like one that I think has been asked a lot of times, and it's one I also have always wondered about because the applications of the powertrain could be applied to lots of different areas. So, so that's what a lot of people are asking is, could you? And I actually think you have. You sold to a trash truck company, I think, right? But in other words,
Return it, yeah.
Return it, yeah. So it's like, could you move this into other applications, trash trucks and even maybe bigger power equipment, backhoes, track hose, dozers, things like that.
Yeah.
And if that is a possibility, obviously, you got to get this thing to production first. But long-term vision, is that something that you're thinking about?
So answer is absolutely yes, right? We see this as a technology not only going to be strong for the Class 8 long-haul semi-truck market, we also see that there's other great applications for it, but you hit the nail on the head. Our goal is let's get it commercialized in one area first. Let's get some market share there, and then let's look at other applications. But absolutely, there's other fits, other types of vehicles that this powertrain makes a lot of sense for.
Right. Yeah, I mean, how big do you think it could go? But you would have to retool and rethink
so
it.
There is some of that, right? I mean, but one of the interesting things is we're kind of going after the toughest market first, right? We're going after the biggest trucks, the heaviest trucks. When you look at like what level of battery technology, what level of software controls you need for that big of a vehicle, it's very complex. As you move to a smaller vehicle, lighter weight, some of the the charge rates that you're putting a battery through are less. So it's actually, we see as if we want to step down to a smaller class of vehicle, it's actually much easier to do that than it is to step up to a bigger truck. So that should be a competitive advantage for us. And then, as you get smaller and smaller vehicles, the market size does continue to grow pretty substantially.
Got it. Cool. So, everyone's looking forward to this thing getting to production, and you've got your timeline.
We are too.
I'm sure. And you got your timeline when you're looking to, and now you've pinned some deals, and you got orders that are backed with deposits. So, what do you think? If you can speak on it, once you get to production, how many do you think you're going to be able to churn out in, say, a month's time initially? And then I know that'll be determined on as you learn, the process to get them to production. But if you can speak on that at all.
Well, so one of the things we shared on the earnings call was we are going to launch production in the latter part of 23, likely in Q4. And what we've made commitments to the fleets is that we plan on delivering all those trucks back to them by, or the agreement says by Q1 of 24, right? So, the goal is we get ramped up at the end.
Is that including the recent order?
So we haven't given comments on that one yet. But
if we did a math on that, that's 100 and a quarter, so that's 33 a month.
Yep, and then the goal is let's keep on going more than that, right? And so you saw the facility here. I mean, we've got bays here that we can do installs. We've also laid out that we have partners on mod centers that can do some of the installs for us. And then the other thing is real long term, we want to get this pulled into the OEM. So our goal is we design, develop the powertrain, and then we ship it directly to the truck maker. And when they're building the truck, they're going to install it. And these guys are producing thousands and thousands of vehicles every year at scale, right? And our goal is just be part of that process. So now, is that going to happen overnight? No, right? But we've got great relationships with the OEMs. We're launching with Peterbilt first, and then the goal is how do we get this pulled online? And that's what really opens up the opportunity to volume production.
Got it. Makes sense. And the final one from the broader community is there were several about the winter testing questions, timelines, and and all those kinds of things. And why was it kind of pushed a little bit out? Because I guess there are other areas you could go ahead and move into, do winter testing in other areas, maybe even Canada or something like that. But the overarching question is,
why did it move? Yeah.
Why did it move? And how long do you think it'll take once you get started, or how long does it typically take for that to occur?
Yeah. So testing in all the elements is critical. We learned this on the hybrid product. The road conditions of commercial vehicles are brutal. Upper state New York in particular, the salt they use on those roads, it will corrode wiring harnesses. It'll eat through paint. It's unbelievable. Now, we've done a lot of those learnings on the hybrid, which is great because we can carry those over to Hypertruck. But the reason that we had to push some of the winter testing from the winter that we're just going through and went through to next winter is because it really just depended on where we were at in the sequence of building Hypertruck. So you drove a model of the truck today. We've got an X batch building, which on the last earnings call we expressed was going to be at least 10 more trucks, right? Those are the ones that we want to run through the winter testing. So because of supply chain delays, being able to source components, we had to push that out to the right. And then we have gotten the question of, well, why didn't you just take the trucks that you have run and put those through testing? Well, we have been testing them, but they're not the ones we want to run through the winter testing, the ones that are, kind of the finalized or what we consider to be the design for going to market.
Right. And you still got to have some to show fleets. So, it's this chicken and egg thing, right? All right, that makes sense. Okay, so moving from that is then some of these questions are for me and some other communities as well. But this one was for me, and so I take full credit on this one. But so
does that mean it's a softball?
No, it's a little bit harder. But so in the earnings report, you had the 100 orders, and then we've added on 50 more since that since the earnings. And but I know that they all didn't come in at the same time, but you chose to wait until the earnings to announce them. So what was the mindset behind not putting out PR along the way? Because that's some people are a lot of times complaining about PR,
Sure.
But so because that could have helped bolster the investor community, that bolster confidence. Along the way. So, or was it just that you wanted to have a knockout earnings and be like, all right, see?
No, so it really just came down to timing. So we've been working with fleets for a while. We've been getting a lot of good fleet interest, and we're working with other fleets as well. We're working through with them what could their adoption cycle be? Are they ready to place orders with deposits for production slots? And it really just came down to the timing of pulling those together, the timing of when the earnings call was coming together, that we decided, look, let's bundle these together. Let's do an announcement. And then, as we go forward, one of the things we said is, we didn't give all the details on the earnings call about them. So we do plan on, as we go forward here, sharing more and more. And then, as I said on earnings, I think it was the last question from Bill. He was like, hey, any Hypertruck Innovation Council members? And it just happened the night before we got that first one from an Innovation Council member, Green Path Logistics. and we announced that a couple of days later.
Did
So.
you like my little my
Your little YouTube video that
Yeah.
you put out there?
yeah.
I don't know. I don't own any gold chains like that, so I got to work on that.
Yeah, I often wonder what you think when some of the things come in like that. And two, like I said, because there's no affiliation between us, and so I'm my own entity, so I can do things a lot differently than you being publicly traded. So
It's been a new world for me. Let's put it that way.
that's awesome.